Hello, my name is Boruch and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome back to my ongoing series of Old Testament 12-step recovery videos. We're going through the 12 steps by way of each of the 5 books of Moses. Today we're doing the third step based on inspiration from the book of Exodus. Exodus 7:13 reads, "And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had spoken." So what's happening here, you may be familiar with this story. It's a pretty famous part of the Bible. We have the Israelites are enslaved in Egypt. And Moses returns from his long life away from Egypt. Moses had been raised in the palace, and he went off for what the commentators say was 60 years to, it's unknown, but the one theory is that he was in what's now Saudi Arabia, came back as an older man, and he, based on God's command at the burning bush, he demands that Pharaoh let my people go. Let the Israelites free them. They should no longer be slaves. Let them leave Egypt. Pharaoh, of course, says, "No. Are you kidding me? I'm never letting you go. You're my property." So God brings plagues. There are 10 plagues. The Nile turns to blood. There are frogs, lice, hail, darkness, these terrible plagues on the Egyptians. But each time that Pharaoh starts to think, well, maybe I should let the Israelites go. Maybe the God of the Israelites is too powerful for me. God hardens Pharaoh's heart, and he changes his mind. He says, "I will not let you go." He says he hearkened not unto them. He didn't listen to Moses and to God. And God continued to punish Pharaoh until the very end with the death of the firstborn. And Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go. But even then, he chased after them until he was destroyed at the Red Sea. And of course, if you've seen the movie The Ten Commandments, this is all available for you in Technicolor. Yul Brynner plays Pharaoh. He's brilliant. But anyway, to be serious, the question that comes up is, what does this mean that God hardened Pharaoh's heart? Why doesn't God let Pharaoh make up his own mind about it? And there's a lot of discussion about this, and I don't have a clear answer on this. As with many issues in the Bible, there are a few, super simple and clear explanations of what's going on. But I think as alcoholics, we can recognize what's happening with Pharaoh. To me, it's a very clear symbolism of alcoholic thinking. No matter how bad things get, Pharaoh's heart is still hardened, and he's never wrong. His kingdom is being destroyed piece by piece with locusts and animal disease and hail. I mean, Egypt is being pummeled out of existence. People are dying by the thousand, but Pharaoh's like, nope, I'm not changing my mind, not for anything. Does that sound familiar? Your heart is hard. As alcoholics and addicts, I think we've all been through this to some extent. Something bad happens, you get fired. Nope, not my fault, that was my boss's fault. You smash up your car, that wasn't my fault, that was the other guy. You run over somebody and kill them, not my fault, he was in the middle of the street, and on and on. No matter how bad things get, it's never your fault. Your heart is hardened against accepting responsibility for what you're doing and accepting the consequences of your actions. You're always blaming someone else. You're always making excuses. You think it's going to be better next time, and it isn't. And this is the story of Pharaoh. We can recognize Pharaoh as an alcoholic personality. And Pharaoh gets punished, just as we endured punishment for our addictions. And I think we should be able to relate this to the third step. The third step is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Third step is a very significant step. It's a decisive turning point in our recovery. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Meaning, if our heart is hardened, we're going to either have to ignore that hardening of our heart and let God help us live our lives, or we're going to have to soften our hearts. That is something to think about. If you want to make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God, you have to stop running the show yourself. You have to stop operating with a hardened heart where nothing's your fault and everything's going to be fine no matter what happens. And, you know, you can ignore all the bad things happening to you. That has to end when you make the third step. Or at a minimum, you have to struggle with it. Sometimes the third step is a struggle, right? You have to try it a number of times. And it's, as we say, you know, progress, not perfection. It's not like, you know, most people in the program aren't like, oh, you know, on Tuesday I did the third step, and after Wednesday everything was never a problem again. Everything was perfect. Because, you know, it's a struggle. But at least you're engaging in the struggle. You're working on getting sober. So some recovery thoughts for this, you know, think about softening your heart. Can you think about ways that your heart may have been hardened before you were ready to do the third step? Can you think of examples in your life where, you know, you ignored a problem that was caused by your drinking or using? What were the consequences? Maybe you damaged a relationship in your life. Maybe you damaged somebody's property or injured somebody or injured yourself. I mean, this is a, you know, Pharaoh is like the man who's in the hospital with liver disease because of his drinking. And he's like, nothing wrong with me. Not my fault. My liver's got a problem. You know, like not dealing with stuff, not accepting the consequences of your addiction. And maybe looking back, if you're working on your fourth step, you know, can you see situations that were like warning signs that you were ignoring or rationalizing? Was your heart hardened in your past, in your history of drinking or using? And maybe for today, think about, is addiction hardening your heart? Are you hardening yourself and wanting to return to drinking regardless of the consequences to yourself and others? This hardening of the heart can happen, you know, at any time. And this is the essence of relapse. You know, it's an ongoing process. Anyway, those are some thoughts for the third step based on the book of Exodus. If you like what you've heard here, I would encourage you to get the Old Testament 12-step workbook, which is available at the link below. Would love to have you be part of it.